بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is that how we can get rid of shaitan in prayer, maghzan.
Okay, I'm trying to determine if this falls under the fatwa category. But it's the answer is very clear. The shaitan comes to you in prayer. This is from the hadith where it mentioned he said this was khanzab, and it was where a companion was complaining about the shaitan being disturbed in prayer and not able to focus in prayer. And I'm paraphrasing. And he said this shaitan, his name is khanzab, and you should seek refuge with Allah. Say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And then the hadith mentions that you then not spat on your left 3 times. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And then you spat on your left 3 times. But the scholars, they talk about that this is not spit. It's not, you're really, going at your brother next to you, And it's a big problem. Somebody leaves and their hijab has like 3 big spots on it. Like, what happened, mom? And it's like, well, some lady spit on me like 3 times. So no, it should be spat. It should be such that it's not liquid. It should not be noticeable. It should not be, they put other requirements. It should not harm the masjid. It should not disturb the one praying next to you. I always remember as new Muslims, we sometimes are overzealous. And especially, I know in Florida, we had a lot of new Muslims when I became a Muslim. Again, he said 99, I'm getting old, I guess. And I remember there were just brothers, they were always wanting to enter Islam in totality and do everything. And like 3-4 times, you have a line of brothers. Different ethnic backgrounds, all American brothers, converts, reverts, whatever word you want. And we'll be praying, like one person here, next person here. It was like a spitting contest, it felt, just often, because they want to implement. The mentality is they want to implement, which is beautiful. But it was disturbing me, sarah. I'm sitting here, and person on my left, person on my right, and I'm just make sure I don't have spit on me. And so there's a balance. I'm not trying to be funny with it, but there's a balance. This is the hadith. It says you seek refuge with Allah, you then spat on your left 3 times, and we do it appropriately. It says, and that's why the scholars mention that it is not filled with liquid, that it is spat, and that it is, they put conditions of not, again, dirtying the masjid and not disturbing your brother or sister praying next to you. Hope that answers the question.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My question is provocation of shaitan. Provocation of shaitan, that it also derailed us in everyday life. Suppose that I am going out of the mosque and then I am going to market. I see big picture of advertisement. There may be something which will lure me towards materialistic life. So tomorrow I'll go to office. People will talk about their career. So I'll be more dedicated to my career. That will lure me in my materialistic life. So in this way I will go to internet. That will also lure me. There are good side and bad side in the internet. That will also luring me. So in this earthly life, I see everywhere there are many aspects, many causes, reasons which lure me always. And also I believe you will agree, other guys. So how can I protect myself from those luring things, those career, advertisement, materialistic life?
Beautiful question. But even let me add to that, some of the things that are attracting you may not be haram. You mentioned you go to your work and your place of employment, and maybe some of your co-workers are getting advancements and promotions, and you're now, it motivates you to work harder at your job in this dunya to get the advancement. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with this. There's a balance. There was a great question over here. How do we strike this balance, right? So I want to point out that being motivated to succeed in this life at certain things and being attracted to certain things is natural, and no one will come make that haram upon you. What we're talking about, though, is the question you've been said, with those things that are always pulling us, how do we summarize? How do we what? Keep our focus. That's the subject of tomorrow, the khutbah. And I think that we have a lot of people who are already hearing, on a Thursday talk, I like to give a big intro. You've heard you've heard not a large part, you've heard almost 40 to 50% of my khutbah now, which is of course going to be, not 30-40% represents about 15 minutes worth, but nevertheless, don't sleep during the first half of the khutbah tomorrow, just because you heard a 1-hour version today. But that's one of the major discussions tomorrow. What is the solution? Today we did what? We accurately diagnosed the problem. That's the first step. You cannot give a medicine, a prescription. Well, sometimes it happens in some countries. They do give a prescription without accurately diagnosing the problem. But in general, you should not be giving the prescription and the medicine without diagnosing the problem. So we've diagnosed the problem. What is the solution? We're not saying focusing on those things to giving them their rights is wrong or even haram. What we're saying though is that we're missing our focus on the hereafter. How do we focus on the hereafter? And let me just start by at least making one point. As you said, all of those things are attracting us, are luring us, right? Do we have things that are luring us to the hereafter? I don't want you to answer, it's a rhetorical question. Do we have things that are luring us to the hereafter, that are pulling us to the hereafter? And we do. But there are some things that we can also do to make those things more prominent in our lives. Are you with me? Those things that are luring us, to make them more prominent in our lives. There are things that we can actively do. They're there, but we may not simply choose to let them be part of our lives. And we can do that, inshallah. We'll talk about tomorrow.